Indy, that's disgusting. Stop it. On your bed. No, sorry, my dog is just licking his balls in the background, so I'm just telling him to shut up. Sorry about that.
This is the Audio Roundtable, Session 6. Rolling.
Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 6 of TART. How you all doing?
What kind of tarts are you today?
Well, it's great to be back here again for another month. All right, so a quick whip round the round table. We have the lovely Satauna Harry. How are you going?
I'm doing okay.
We have the cranky Scott Cheeseworth.
What the do you want, McLaren?
Oh, come on, man. And we have the slightly less cranky Garth Humphreys.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, better than you, apparently, because you did this intro and you're a grumpy bum.
I'm never a grumpy bum. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm never grumpy. I'm eternally optimistic.
He's genteel on the outside, but really there's an underneath that
We've all seen.
He's genteel on the outside and there's a drunk underneath it.
Yeah, he is a mean drunk.
How's everyone seen my asshole? I don't like this.
Well, when you get drunk, things happen, man.
Sort of a rite of passage if you're Australian, isn't it?
Oh, pretty much.
Oh, come on now. Don't lump us all in together. All right. So, good intro, Matt.
Woohoo, all right, Matt.
So how do we kick this thing off?
Yeah, who's going first?
Matt, let's go back to you. Since you did the intro, let's start with you. I hear over the last couple of weeks or so, you spent 4 days putting together an entire album. Kind of makes Scott's 12 months on an album look a bit lame, but, you know.
I literally think that's the only reason that he did this, just to show me up.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about motivators, and that was a big one. Just to be quicker than Scott. So yes, I did put together a covers album. It's not the first one I've done, but it's
Hang on.
What?
Hang on.
What?
Should we have a listen to it?
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail? A smile from a veil. Do you think you can tell? Did it get you trained? Your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange a walking part in a war for a hero in a cage?
We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running up in the same old ground. Haven't found the same old feel. You here.
This is not the first one of these I've done, but it is doing it in 4 days. The first time I've done that. There was no real reason to do it in 4 days, apart from the fact I wanted to have it out on Australia Day, which is the 26th of January, because I had, a few gigs that day, and there was going to be loads of people around, and I thought I'd shift a few. I was wrong. It did set a deadline for me, and I do work better under deadlines. Definitely work better under deadlines, especially on my own stuff. If I don't have a deadline, I just don't get stuff done. For my own stuff, that is. For clients, that's different. But getting my own stuff out I always struggle with that, knowing when to stop and that sort of thing. But I think I actually went too far the other way on this one. I needed more time on it. Whilst I think it's come up all right, there are a lot of things wrong. With the production, there's a lot of stuff missing. I just didn't have the time to do the stuff I really would like to do. There's a lot of general, copying, pasting certain things, and especially musically, where I would have liked to be a lot more creative and done a lot more with it. So that's a bit of a shame, but it's sort of, I don't know. It's out, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? And it's not terrible. It's just not.
There's a glowing endorsement. It's not terrible.
Buy my album, folks. It's not terrible.
It's not the worst thing. I think it's because it's mine. It's just I can hear all the stuff I didn't do and could have done.
But dude, for what it is, like for people that come to see your live show and they're like, oh, I liked your interpretation of da-da-da-da-da.
Yes.
Like for them to have a little reminder of what they heard at the gig and to feel like they're kind of supporting you doing it, this is fine.
No, it's good, Scott. It's not just fine.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I figured, and that's how I got away with it.
And it's merch, right? You've got merch now at your gigs too, right? Which is great.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a pretty cover and...
Now you need is T-shirts with just your face on the front and you're golden.
I was into that. Ash said it was a stupid idea.
I'd wear it.
I know you would.
I mean, I'd wear it inside out, but I would wear it.
He wants your face pressed against his chest, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
No, I'll send you the undies version.
Menage a McLaren on your undies. That would work. See, there you go. Those might work.
Ay.
I don't know, like, I wanted to do some showy production stuff on there because, essentially it is showing my skills as a producer, but I don't think that's there. And, like, some of the mix and stuff is not exactly where I want it, like, and it's just purely... I was working during the day and I was doing this overnight. I didn't have fresh ears. I didn't have time to come back and listen to it. And I listen to it now and go, for f***'s sakes, why don't you catch that? Like, it's just stuff like that.
I think you're being really hard on yourself.
I do too.
The mixes are maybe a little bit static.
Yeah.
But none of them are bad. I can hear what you're saying. I can hear that there's room for more. But at the same time, I don't think any of it sounds like half-assed.
Oh, well, that's good. Thanks, man.
And I don't know how many people are going to buy this from a gig and be looking necessarily to hire you as a producer.
Well, that was my other thought too.
I think for who you're selling it to, this is exactly what it needs to be. And if you can turn that around in 4 days, then good on you.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys.
Is it worth looking at one of the tracks in a little bit more detail? Like, let's be specific about, I was happy with this bit and I wasn't happy with this bit.
Yeah, we can.
So if we just have a quick listen to this.
Remember the words you told me and love me till the day I die. Surrender everything as you made me believe you're mine. Used to call me baby, now you're calling me by name. Thanks for the knowing, baby, you beat me at my own damn game. You pushing and pulling away from you. I'm giving and take. Young blood, you want me out of your life. I'm just a dead man walking tonight. Yes, I need it all the time. Young blood, you want me back
t-shirts with your face on the front.
Pushing and pulling away from you. Give it a take. Young blood, you want me.
This is the song I converted Scott onto, and now he loves this song. He loves a pop song.
I love this song, and I'm not ashamed.
It's such a banger.
I've suggested to both originals bands that I play in that we cover this song, and so far it's been unanimously said that I should go myself.
Walking tonight, it's a needed all the time. Oh.
So this band's from West Sydney, actually. 5 Seconds of Summer, or 5 Sauce as the cool kids call them.
I don't know if you can really call them a band, though, can you? They're more of a group, aren't they?
Well, they have a drummer and a guitarist and a singer, and I think a guy plays keyboards.
Are they plugged in at gigs, I wonder?
Well, I'm not plugged in at my gigs. Does that make me a band? I don't know.
That makes you a fraud, doesn't it, I think?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So this could have been so much better, I think. It is missing so much. I think what you said before, Scott, about it being static, this is static.
Yeah, this is the example I would have gone to.
Yeah, especially towards the end, it just doesn't get that next level. There's some nice moments in it. The breakdown's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, blood.
Where it goes all 80s for a second, that was an accident, but I left it like that because it was, late and like, oh, bringing back the 80s all of a sudden, let's do that. But yeah, this one, it could have been so much better. Like, the last 16 bars is the most boring 16 bars I think I've ever done in my life. I should have just chopped it rather than left it in there. And the saddest bit about it was I didn't actually realise this was a thing until after I printed the album. Because I don't think I actually listened to it all the way through, which is really terrible. I'm sure I probably did, there's no, glitches or anything that I know of. There's none, is there? God, I hope there isn't.
I don't know. I haven't listened to it all the way through. Jesus.
Fair enough. Listening to it in context, from start to finish of that track, it's not cohesive. And that's a shame because it could have been... quite good. But I mean...
This one, for me, was where, the most stark contrast was there between the stuff that was good and the stuff that was not quite finished. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
I feel like the vocal on this one is really, really good. The Rhodes is really, really nicely played.
Love the Rhodes.
Rhodes.
The thing that I really enjoyed about the whole record is that your keys playing in particular... I think once people are capturing stuff with MIDI, they've got a real tendency to over tidy.
Oh, yeah.
And take all the performance out of it. I feel like the keys escaped that on this. Maybe because you're smart enough to not do it, or maybe literally just a time crunch forced you to not do it. I don't know.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of the ways that I got this done so quick is I actually set up my full performance rig, which I never do in the studio because I've got enough keyboards here. I don't need to do that. But I set up my rig from gigs and I hit a click track, an earpiece, and I just played it. I did take the MIDI as well, but I didn't really do anything with it. But I just did it as I would do it at a gig and then added in the other production elements around it.
And you can hear that, man, especially in the keys.
Well, that's good because that's what I was going for because at gigs, that's what I do. So I'm glad you said that. That's really good to know.
But then the trickier bits for me to get into on this were the drums and the guitars.
It's native instruments. Session guitarist.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm into guitar-based music, right? So I'm not your target audience at all.
Yeah.
It's not so much the drum sequencing on this one, although that could have maybe used a little bit of extra love. I think it's the actual drum sound just kind of lacked that stomp that they've got on the original tune.
Yeah, and there's something about that. I think they're using the bass guitar as well on the original to get this thump into it. It just sounds great on the original.
I'm a bass player. I should know what they're doing, but I can't honestly say I've listened to it. I like the song so much, I haven't bothered listening to it critically. I'm still in that phase of, this is my jam.
Oh, he's in love.
Yeah, so good. I haven't been this into a boy band since McFly came on the scene.
That's so cute.
I think it's the most excited I've ever heard you about anything. I think there actually is a problem with the like tambourini thing in there. I think I fixed it and then somehow undid it or something. It's like pushing or something. I don't know. It's really odd in the choruses when it comes in halfway through the choruses. There's something wrong with it. And see, this is the stuff. Like if I'd had another week on this, or even another 2 days, I would have went through and I would have fixed all this.
Yeah.
And it would have sounded so much better for it. And you know, I'm disappointed that I didn't. But at the same time, I don't know whether I actually would have done it. Like, if I would have made use of that time. Do you know what I mean? Like
That was the question.
And that's I need to sort that out in my brain because it sucks. And this is what's holding me back from doing my original stuff and that sort of thing as well. And it's just my process isn't there. And I think I just need a sounding board or to work with someone else. Because half the problem is, even when I'm doing vocals and stuff too, I know when it's in tune and I know when it's the diction's shit or whatever, which some of it was on this album. But I don't know when it's good.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
Okay, can I just throw something in here? This is why there are producers.
Exactly.
yes.
I mean, this is why you don't do your own, why you bring somebody else in, because you are too close to it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in voiceover. You know, yeah, you can do your own demos all day long. Sure you can. But you know what? When you get somebody else in there who hears things that you're missing because you're the one who's running your mouth, and even when you listen back to it, yeah, you can kind of catch it, but somebody else's ears are so valuable.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
This is where I was going as well, was that like I listened to it and I think this is the best thing I've heard from you yet vocally, but I was listening to it and there were a few spots where I was like, oh, if I'd been in the session.
I know.
I think like for what this is absolutely fine, dude. But when you come to your original stuff, get a vocal producer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'd get an all-round producer, honestly.
I can literally only think of 2 singers in the entire time that I've been doing this that can actually record themselves and get results that are maximum potential for what they can do.
Yeah.
Vocals are insanely hard to know when you've reached your maximum potential.
Oh, God, yeah. And to get, like, the emotional content of it right, too.
Yeah.
I find that really hard.
Actually, while we're talking about this, can we just play a little clip of the last chorus of whatever that Crowded House song is called? You know, the bit where you do the high bit?
Don't dream it's over.
No, when the world comes in, that bit. Every time I hear that, it kicks me squarely in the feelings and I have a little weep.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got goosey bees.
Let's play a little clip of that.
Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, the world comes in. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, and the world comes in. They come to build a wall between us. You know they will win. Don't ever let them win.
That's a good clip.
This is a good example for me where like when the world comes in line is so good, and the first half of the chorus just it's just a bit safe and it doesn't. The world comes in line, it just comes at you from nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's the kind of thing that like a good vocal producer being in the session would have kind of had you ramp up to that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And make like that whole last chorus a bit of a, excuse me for using such a terrible word, but a bit of a journey.
Yeah, and I think that it is what it is for me, is like the safe thing, and knowing where that line is really challenging. I think you're right. I think next time I do this, or if I do it with originals or whatever, I need to find a producer, but I don't know where I'm going to find one around here. I need to probably go elsewhere, which sucks a bit.
That's what Source Connect's for.
I suppose that's true.
I'll do you a mate's rate.
All right. Ooh.
I'll do you a mate's rate and just get you screaming over everything, man. Fuck it.
Let's do my first metal record. That'd be good.
Black metal version of Don't Dream It's Over. The world needs it.
Metallica.
Metallica.
Oh, Metallica. Oh, there it is.
Metallica with the Matt album.
Oh, it's just terrifying. Check him out.
Oh, I was just drinking coffee and I'd coming out my nose.
I've never choked someone with a joke before.
Choke.
It's a nice feeling, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, man.
Rubbish.
So by the time this podcast comes out, it will be on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. I held off with the release on that because I wanted to try and flog off some physical copies. And a little interesting, oh, here we go. Here's Scott's word again. A little interesting journey setting up a little Shopify store and selling them through Facebook and stuff. And I definitely shut that down before the trial period expired. But it's been fun. It's been really good.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt.
Thanks for listening to it, guys.
All right, let's do a little bit of a change of subject. One of our earlier sessions, session 3, I think it was, Satauna took us through the workflow for recording her voiceover. Well, we got us started on that, and we wanted to come back to that journey because it was because I wanted to say journey.
This podcast's all about journeys.
Yeah, and basically take the next step. Satauna, how are you?
I'm fine. I just want to recap a little bit on episode 3, if you haven't listened to it. What I mainly talked about was what I use. So I use a lot of Braille displays, lots of Braille. Braille, everywhere, Braille. And I talked about how my scripts come in different formats, PDF, DocX, sometimes pages. Sometimes I get JPEGs, and I can try and OCR them, and that may or may not work. So how Ira can be helpful, particularly with revisions when people send things. I had one recently where there was blue, which represented new text, and yellow, which represented edits to the previous text that I'd read. So that was totally fun.
That makes sense, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, the nice thing about that one was that I ended up in a client-directed session, so the person who had sent me the script was actually on the phone with me, and that made things easier there.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
So I originally thought then you'd use something like Ira or Fancy Hands or something to get that sorted out, but you just said it was a client-driven session. So does that mean the client read out which sections to do, or like how did that work? Because it was in blue and yellow and all the colors of the rainbow.
Well, in this particular instance, I did use Ira, and and then it was even funnier in this particular instance was that I got my daughter because she's an agent.
Oh, yes.
So I ended up with her on the phone. So that was wild. When I get something like that, it always is a good idea to look at it beforehand because you never know what you're getting. So leaving it until the last second is a bad idea. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It wasn't like you were just winging it on the phone.
No. No. I learned really early on that's a bad idea. That's a terrible idea.
Bad place to be.
But you know what? I have to digress slightly and say that the other day, I completely forgot I had a session at 6 p.m. And we came home and we got in a fender bender. Somebody hit us from behind. It was raining.
Oh, no.
So we got home later than expected, and we were kind of tied up talking about this and looking at the big dent in the back of the car. You can't open the trunk anymore and all this kind of stuff. And I went downstairs, and I sat down, and I was going to go read something totally unrelated, and suddenly the phone rang, and I'm like, all right, I'll pick this up. And I did, and this person, seemed to be understanding that they were supposed to be talking to me, and I'm like, who is this? Why am I talking to this person? So it took me a couple minutes to realize, oh, okay, I was supposed to be here at this time, and I completely spaced out. And then I had to tell them, can you just give me a second to put the script on the right machine? And they were very patient.
Actually, the same thing happened to me the other day. I was finished a Source Connect session, right? And it was just by chance I had Source Connect open, and all of a sudden I got a request from another studio. And I opened up the request, and I'm like, okay, righto, let's do it. There's a knock on the door, and his client turned, I'm like, oh, shit. We're supposed to do another set. And it was all set up. Like, it was all good.
God, I wish I had some pants on.
Exactly.
You guys are so f***ing semi-pro.
Oh, I know, right? I felt really amateur. Like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Let's just give me a second to set up this session again.
Yeah, right?
I literally have no idea what this client is going to be talking about. Not really important.
Yeah, and I had seen the script I had to do the other day. I had looked at it beforehand. I just hadn't brought it over to the Braille display that I wanted to use for the reading of it. But it was okay, and it was a great session. It was really kind of fun.
What happens with these revisions that come in like a less than ideal format over time? I'm imagining that some people would be listening to this and feeling a bit sort of, I don't know if indignant is the right word, but I can imagine you saying something like that on a WhatsApp group and the response being like, well, they need to know that revisions need to come in an accessible format. Otherwise, their project's going to grind to a halt, which obviously is fucked. Like, you can't do that in the real world.
Hell no.
But when you've got like a long-term repeat client, is there anything that you do to try and make that stuff smoother? Or do you just kind of think, well, IRA's a thing, I can make it work, and just not rock the boat?
This is a great question, because I actually had a blind person who I had spoken to, I don't know how long ago, it was a while ago. And she was trying to learn voiceover, and she was kvetching about the place that she was trying to learn it from, and they were going to give her a workbook, but she didn't know if it was going to be accessible, and blah, 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 and all of this accommodation. And I kept trying to say, I get from a teaching perspective they should make it accessible, but I'd also like to point out that in the real world, you can't do that. You're one of a ton of responses. And sometimes that's 49, sometimes it's 150, sometimes it's 10. But regardless, you're one of many. And so many people, they do it and they're behind schedule and they want it yesterday, and they, or they've never done it before and they don't know quite how it works. And you asking for accommodations is an extra layer that complicates matters in huge ways. And most people I don't say anything to.
Right.
I had a client that the first time when he called me up, he had Googled me. So he knew I couldn't see. And he told me this, and he asked me if there was anything he could do to make the process easier for me. But it was awesome and exciting, but it's rare.
It's the exception, yeah.
Yeah.
What a lovely man.
The revisions, it depends on how they come through.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I have a long-term relationship with them, I may say something. I have a client actually over in your neck of the woods, Scott, who I've been working with them for a long time. And one day they wanted a quick revision, and they didn't send the whole script with revisions marked. They sent a picture of the part they wanted me to read. And this was before I had Ira, and I'm just like, this is a picture. What am I going to do? There's nobody here to deal with this right now. My husband was, I don't know where he was or whatever, but I didn't have a pair of eyeballs. So I just wrote, and I said, we've been working together for a long time, and you don't know this about me, but here it is. Can you type this up? And they got it. And they typed it up, and they still work with me.
Yeah.
So it didn't freak them out too badly. But whenever somebody new comes into their company, it's the same problem. Like the new person isn't automatically told. So even if you tell a long-term client, then you have turnover, and you can't,
I find here that if you can, and this isn't to try and divert focus away from the fact that you're blind or anything like that, but I find here that if you can wrap up requests like that in a way that paints it as being like beneficial for them,
yeah,
that often is what gets it through. So like in the context of what I do, if I've worked on like 3-4 songs with people and their files arrive in a state or like really badly named or whatever, I just wrap it up in the sense that, hey man, I've got a pretty good template starting point for your stuff now. And so if you can organize your files like this, it means I can drop them straight in, and I'm spending more time mixing and less time organizing and naming files and like stuff that can be done on your end.
I have done that. And where I've really, really done that is if anybody lives in Florida, I'm the voice of the Tampa airport telling you not to leave your baggage unattended and don't smoke in certain areas. And by the way, the next train is going to stop at this location, and here are the airlines that you can find off of this station and things like that. All the airport announcements.
Yep.
Which is really fun. But they send me these huge Excel spreadsheets with like 13, 14 columns of information. And they're and we just want you to do the ones in yellow. And there's 3 separate worksheets within the file. And there's yellow and and it's like I have written and said, look, just send me what you want me to read. And they want all of these in separate files, each announcement. I'm not going to do that kind of administration. So there are places where and I don't say anything about the fact that I can't see, but I just say
That's nothing to do with being blind.
No.
That's just a pain in the ass. That's just bad organization.
It is. And there are people too who, people will send you scripts that are quote unquote final, but they've got revisions or comments all over them. And those revisions and strikeouts and comments and all this crap, it's not meant for you. This went through rounds with legal, and a client and somebody else, and, everybody put their 2 cents in. And the first thing I have to do when I get something like a Word document is go run the inspector on it and clear all of that crap out.
So, I mean, in an ideal world, you get everything accessibly and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is you've just got to in-house that part. That's just part of your work.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, what's accessible to one person is not accessible to another person. That's got nothing to do with being blind. We work in a customer-driven job. Like, we need to make sure the process for the client is as painless as possible. And people that complain about, they should give it to us in accessible formats and stuff, it's nothing to do with, like, hiding being blind or anything like that. It's not anything to do with that. It's just making the process as painless as possible for the client, and that goes for getting things accessibly. It goes for the experience of, recording the client, making sure they've got everything they need. It's all that sort of stuff. And that's the stuff we need to take care of. And that's just the way it is. Like, if you're excited doing this job, I'm sure there's other accommodations you'd have to make that we don't have to make. Like, the whole complaining about, they should do it this for us. And no, they shouldn't. They're paying you. Figure it out.
You tell them, Matt.
Anyway. Sorry, Satauna. Back to you.
Now we've finished completely derailing everything. Tell us about your workflow for auditioning.
So today what I kind of wanted to do was just sort of walk through an audition process on one of the online casting sites that I frequent. So I got invited to this particular audition. So again, this is an online casting site. This particular one is coming from voice123.com. So on these online casting or pay-to-play sites, you pay a fee for a membership to the site, and you build out a profile. And that profile has everything from my gender to voice ages that I perform to demos in different categories and the capabilities of my studio. So the fact that I have Skype and that I have Zoom and Source Connect and a phone patch, which doesn't actually mean a real phone patch. It can be something as crazy as AirPods in your ears and an iPhone, or it can just be, Skype and somebody calls your Skype number kind of thing. It doesn't have to be, an actual phone patch of old.
iPad.
So, so you have this profile that lists everything out that you are and that you do and testimonials and clients and all that kind of thing. And then you get auditions that match your profile. So obviously I'm female. The auditions that are male don't show up in my profile, but the auditions where the client has said that they will accept auditions from both genders, sorry, it's only a 2-gender field right now, folks.
Don't include that in the podcast. Do not include that in the podcast.
That's the way the websites are set up, is what I'm trying to say.
You are opening my baby up to a world of hate.
And it's still so young. It's too young for this.
Yeah, this podcast is too young to know what gender it is. I know that's contentious for some people, but anyway, go on, carry on.
Clients can search, and they can, type in keywords, and you might come up in the search. And then they can invite you to their project. Or there are projects that are just posted publicly, and they don't send out private invites. They just let whomever audition, and they don't ask you. So for this particular one, I was invited, and it's a fertility clinic asking. And I picked this one specifically because, A, I was invited to it. B, it's got all this crazy terminology in it. And there are so many people who just, when you talk about voiceover, the thing they think is radio, television, radio. And so much of what I do is not radio and television because there's such a tremendous amount of corporate work out there. So when you're on these sites, they give you all sorts of information. I'm looking at voice actor requirements. It tells me the language, USA and Canada, the gender and age, female adult. A lot of times there will be female adult, female young adult, male adult, like they'll put each one in. Work details, length of the recording to be defined. And that's a red flag for me.
Uh-oh.
Because if you don't know the length of your recording, but you've got a budget, how am I supposed to know whether that budget's reasonable?
That's shitty.
Yeah, right? Like, hello?
There's a problem here.
That's sketchy.
Yeah. So work duration, this says one-off. So this is not a series. They're not going to come back to me. Recording and delivery options, digital delivery. I don't know why they even bother with that because
You do it any other
what
way.
other way is there?
What is there? Yeah.
Casting options, number of proposals wanted, 30. Get custom auditions, yes. So if the answer to that question was no, then you would just drop in one of your demo reels.
Yeah.
Okay, so custom audition being like a you actually read their
Show me you can read all our terminology.
Yes. So in this case, there's a script for custom audition. And in this case, they could have just dropped a sample script in here, but what they did is they dropped an actual PDF file, which is great because up above they said to be defined. So I can download this PDF. And when I do, I'm sure there's a way to do it in Adobe, but I don't know. So I will open it up in Word to look at the word count because that gives me a sense of how long this really is.
Is this the script for the entire thing?
Yes, which is a blessing and a curse. In this particular instance, it's a blessing because since they didn't indicate a length, this is the only thing that's going to tell me how long it is. But usually, I hate downloading the entire script, right? Just give me a 15 to 30 second sample. I don't need your whole script.
Yep.
So I have this file. I've downloaded this file. It's about 650 words. We'll get to the rate in just a second. Deadline for getting proposals. This proposal came in today. They want proposals/auditions by the 13th. Money matters. Budget, $850. So for 650 words, that's fine. Further details. Okay, here's where they tell you what it's about. In search of female narrator for animated video, video's target audience are potential patients. Narrator must focus on pronouncing technical jargon correctly, as well as appeal to patients with a conversational tone. The brand is light in tone, not dramatic. The goal is to take very complicated subject matter and make it clear for patients. Animations will be used in private for education of patients. So they're going to use this within their fertility clinic. That's the idea.
I wish I got briefs that were that specific and that well put together because that is, you get told exactly what they want and you can nail it then.
It's not always like that. Sometimes they're like, voiceover for explainer video. And you're like, okay, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
That sounds like they know exactly what they're after.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that one person's conversational is another person's clinical.
Yeah.
People use this word conversational, and it really means different things to different people. So I recognize that to you, that brief sounds like they know what they want, but it's pretty hard to make stuff like this sound conversational. And there's a difference between sounding conversational and too friendly,
Okay.
I think when I said it sounds like they know what they want, what I actually meant was I know what I would do with that.
Mm-hmm.
I know what conversational means to me, but the question is, does that align with what they think conversational is? And that's why there's an audition process, right?
Yeah, and I have to presume that because they invited me, they've listened to my demos. So whatever they're saying is quote-unquote conversational is what they've heard when they've listened to me.
Yeah.
And this is not going to be ultra warm, friendly conversational. This still has to be a certain amount of clinical, in my view. Because having done enough of this medical stuff, they don't really want it to be ultra friendly. And it's so technically full of jargon that you have to slow down, too. Like you can't speak it at a normal rate either because there's so much to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Technobabble.
You need time to process.
Yeah, trophectoderm. Trophectoderm cells.
What?
I think conversational is one of those words that changes a lot with the context.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't want to meet your doctor in a pub and for him to be like, oh, you got the flu again, man? That sucks. Even though that is kind of conversational in some contexts.
Yeah.
I guess that brief is still better than, this is a voiceover.
It's pretty good. It's pretty articulate.
It's strange to me that field earlier wasn't filled in. But, I guess you can't gripe too hard about that kind of stuff, like when it's just a word count away.
And maybe that's like, they just literally don't know how long it would take because they don't do voiceover.
So this is a higher budget job. And generally speaking, with higher budget jobs, people have clearer briefs.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's willing to pay you this kind of money knows what it takes to do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
This is not their first rodeo.
This is what?
This is not their first rodeo, I should say.
Rodeo.
No, it's not their first rodeo. You're right.
Rodeo ready.
Sorry.
Oh, rodeo ready. That's my favourite thing ever.
Sorry, Satauna.
Sorry,
Carry on.
The first thing that comes up when I open this PDF is it says ICSI, and there's a colon. And so they did mention animations, so there's more than one. So presumably this is the first one.
So hang on, I'm daft. What's ICSI?
Oh, Scott. After the eggs or oocytes are retrieved from the ovary by a surgical procedure performed by your doctor, intracytoplasmic sperm injection,
Gonna guess that.
also known as ICSI,
Oh, silly me. I should have known.
It's performed by a skilled embryologist using a high magnification microscope and micro tools.
To be honest, I'm surprised I've got to the age of 34 not knowing that.
So many jokes.
Done.
I can make.
Look, you've nailed it, Satauna. You've nailed it. Let's just cut that bit out and send it to them.
Right. See, okay, here's the funniest
Recorded.
part of this. The funniest part of this for me is that if you look back at what they said, they wanted to make this conversational. The brand is light in tone. The
Yes.
goal is to take very complicated subject matter and make it clear. Does this sound clear to you?
The script has got to do that before you can do that.
Exactly. So this is what you run into. And the other problem, as I look through the script, I was like, oh, I don't want to send that one, because sometimes everybody sends that. That's the first thing you see in the file. That's what everybody will send. So a way to differentiate yourself is to send something different. So I looked down further, and a couple animations down, I have a blastocyst biopsy, and I'm going to read this because I want to make a couple points about it. The blastocyst is made up of two primary cells types, which consist of the inner cell's mass, or ICM. Okay, I'm going to stop. The cells types, it's literally written cells.
Is that?
Yeah, it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
Even
this
I know
is,
that's not good or English.
yeah, right. So this is the way it's written, but when I actually send the audition, I'm going to change it to is made up of two primary cell types.
Yeah.
Because it's clear to me that that's what they mean.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And further down here, there was a goofy thing where they did some kind of thing where they skipped after the cells are removed from the blastocyst is frozen by vitrification, and the cells obtained from the biopsy are sent to the genetic testing laboratory for analysis.
They forgot a two.
Two. Where's the two?
God, this is heaps light.
Okay, so there's a couple of things the reasons I brought this up. If this were a cheap job, I would either overbid their budget or I would delete it and move on.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Because it's very clear that while the client knew what they wanted, they are probably a video production house, and it's their client that wrote the script, and they don't have much say over it.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm guessing you come up against this kind of stuff quite a lot, right?
Yeah, especially dealing in a global field. Yeah.
When I was doing audiobooks, if we were reading from proof copies, which most of the time that would be when someone wanted to drop an audiobook on the same day as the release of the print.
Right.
Those kind of errors would just be everywhere.
Yep.
I used to get so irritated at editors because it's like, what are you doing? Are you just like hammering through spell check and accepting the first result?
That's insane.
And I don't think a day went past on a session from proofs where I didn't have to like restructure a sentence or swap out words or just try and figure out what the hell someone was actually trying to say.
Right.
So it comes up a lot.
It does.
I run into this at work just with emails from clients or colleagues or whatever. There's a lot of instances where us hearing it points out the mistakes so much quicker than someone visually reading it.
Yeah, because people scan read.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't read their stuff out loud.
Yeah.
Scott, stop playing with your microphone.
Sorry.
So this is the part I'll read, the blastocyst part, and I'll read it,
And you'll fix it.
and I'll fix it, and I'll send it.
Scott, there's a lot of ways not to play with your mic, and there's one way to play with your mic. Pick one of the lot of ways not to.
Oh, Garth, I would never want to work for you, hey. I reckon like you come across as so nice, and then as soon as you do something wrong, just look out.
That wasn't horrible.
He's just getting warmed up.
I feel crushed.
Oh, darling.
Okay. Everyone shut up. Satauna, finish what you're saying.
So these online casting sites want their auditions in MP3 for obvious reasons. They don't want you to send waves or AIFs. That might be for the finals, but it's certainly not for the auditions. So you're just sending MP3s, and there's a spot where you put in how much you are charging. So clients will put in what they would like. Sometimes it's a flat rate, sometimes it's a range, but you can put in whatever you want. And then there's a place to put in a proposal. So hi, they know your name because they're looking at your profile.
Yeah.
But this is what I have in my studio. A lot of times, like with this particular audition, because they invited me, I make some assumptions that they've looked at my profile, but I love client-directed sessions. And so I always put in you're welcome and encouraged to be a part of the session via phone, Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, Source Connect, all those things.
That's going to keep revisions to a minimum, right?
You
Most
bet.
of the time, if they're actually there.
Everyone benefits from that, yeah.
I'm imagining that's how you actually build relationships with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty great. Love the sessions.
So, Satauna, do all these jobs have budgets on them? Because that'll make life easier if every client come to you with a budget. You can say, well, not a chance, or yes, we can work with that.
It depends on the site that you're on.
On this site specifically, I mean, yeah, because I know not all of them would.
On Voice 123, no, you can put in to be defined.
Ugh.
And then it's up to me to say, well, this is what I'll do it for.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, depending upon how the proposal is written, sometimes I don't say that. Sometimes if they say to be defined, I say, we'll negotiate it when if you want to hire me, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Which is probably a good way to do it, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Get the job first and negotiate later.
Yeah.
Because then you're not pricing yourself out of the game. You're also not underselling yourself. You're just telling them to make a decision about whether they like your audition or not, and then you talk about it and figure it out.
They see the number, they may not even listen to the audition if it's, not within their scope.
Yes, and they can sort on their side based on various criteria.
Yeah, right.
That is all extremely interesting.
It is. It's really cool.
It's making me think I'm in the wrong game.
Well, I've signed up to Air Gigs and a few of these other sites just recently, and I've got a back to me. I've got a social media, not social media, like a marketing company started working with last week, and they're writing up a whole bunch of copy for me to post onto these sites and my own website and my own social media and all this sort of stuff as well. But just specifically for this conversation. So this is all very new to me, this freelance, Air Gigs, Sound Better, all these other websites. Because I haven't done a lot of stuff on there before, and I thought I might as well throw my hat in the ring because, if work can come in from all over the world, then so be it. And I might make some more connections, and who knows. So, a lot of these sites are free to be on, so it doesn't hurt to do it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about sites like Air Gigs and things like that is that people can just hire you based off your portfolio. They don't have to request an audition. In voiceover, it does seem that most of the time people want an audition, even people who contact me directly. Like they see my profile, my information is right in my profile, and instead of inviting me to their project, they just email me directly and say, hey, I've got a 2-minute voiceover, and I was wondering what your rate would be for something like that.
I can see why people want an audition. I think I would be one of those irritating f***ers that wanted an audition.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is like a slight bit of detachment from hearing like a demo reel to knowing exactly what that person's going to do with your stuff.
With your content, yeah.
And also I think the audition thing is like, going back to that word from earlier, conversational, like that's how you find out what that means to them.
For your project, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I would be one of those people that would be making you audition for stuff. Sorry.
And I think most people are. That's why you can have demos and demos and demos all day long, and those are great, but those are the business cards of voiceover. They're the beginning.
So, how long do you spend on an audition typically? Like, do you really, really put a lot of thought into it, or do you just sort of throw it out there, give them a rough idea, and if they like it, then cool. If they don't, you don't lose too much sleep over it.
I should give some artist answer about being true and acting and, blah, blah, find the story.
Not on my podcast, you don't.
It's a numbers game, particularly on sites like this. I think I actually put more thought into auditions that are sent to me directly by people.
And it might be based on budget a bit too. Would
Yes.
that be true? Like a job for $3,000 is going to be
Yep.
you put more work into that.
Mm-hmm. Here's a perfect example of this. There's an audiobook I auditioned for, and oddly enough, I originally looked at it and went, I'm not too keen on the budget for this. I think I'm going to pass. And I deleted it. And then I had emptied my audition queue one night, and I was going back through all the deleted jobs and kind of looking at the ones that had been completed so I could remove them from my deleted queue. And I saw this audiobook still hanging out there, and I was like, all right, I'll try this. And I read it, and I really liked the opening. I got hooked in the story, and I was like, oh, I could do this. Yep. And I overbid the budget by a significant amount.
Why not?
And I was like, well, I'm one of 49 responses. They might not pick me. And they contacted me this morning.
Yeah, right.
And so now we are negotiating because they don't like my budget.
but they like you.
And I don't quite like what they want me to drop it to, so we're kind of reaching for a middle ground.
That's fantastic, eh?
So, yeah.
That's fantastic. But that's what it's all about. That's so good.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't win all of them, but when you do, it's fantastic. Like, the closest thing I can attribute that to is gigs, like corporate functions and stuff like that is, you know, sometimes they want you to play in Brisbane or Perth or somewhere. And I'm like, well, it's going to cost this much. And you're like, they're never going to pay that. And sometimes they do.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, yeah, sweet. Or you do that negotiation thing. So you just got to put it out there sometimes, because if the quality of your product is good enough, people find room in the budget.
They do.
But your product has to be fantastic. Like, it has to be really good and on point, and you have to be great to work with.
Yep.
If anyone's interested in this stuff, we don't put out that many shout outs to other podcasts because yeah. So let's do that now. There's a really good episode of the Six Figure Home Studio podcast about negotiation that they put out. Oh, I can't remember the episode number or when, but it's recent-ish, and we'll link it in the show notes. I don't know. I think I'm a pretty good negotiator. I've certainly had enough fucking practice at it, so I should be by now. But that episode was very reaffirming to me. I can't say I learnt a ton from it, but I think I would have done if I hadn't have had so much time actually doing the grunt work of trying to get paid for stuff. So I think even if you're a decent negotiator already, there's stuff in that episode that's pretty reaffirming, or at least there was for me.
That's awesome.
Knowing the value of what you do and being confident in the value of what you do and confident enough to say to a client, I'm worth this, is challenging. It's you know, because you want the work. I
don't find it hard to figure out what my time is worth, but I do find it hard to say that to people without being a dick about it.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. So you may know what your worth is, but like the way to say that to someone, to say, well, no, if you're offering me that, that's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Haven't said that to a client.
Yeah, and I think you have to get out of that desperation mode first, right? I mean, for me,
yeah, you do.
It's like,
you really do.
I can say that this audiobook project, I'm torn because on the one hand, I really do want what I bid for it, which I'm not going to get, and I absolutely know I'm not going to get it. On the other hand, I really like the book, and it's a series.
Ooh.
And it's number 1 in the series. So the likelihood is if they have me narrate this first one, they're going to have me narrate the rest of them. So it's future business.
Yep.
And that is valuable. So,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you get it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And if it's such a good story, we'll all go and buy it and read it ourselves.
I'll torrent it.
Yeah, I mean, Garth bought Matt's album. He'll buy anything. So
didn't post it to him, though. He paid for postage.
You should send him a FLAC copy, Matt, seeing as he loves FLAC so much.
That's all right. I've already got the waves now.
And that brings us screeching to the inevitable end of another TART episode. Quick bit of business to take care of. Since my last desperate plea, we've been keeping an eye on the numbers, and they are going up. Some of you are doing as you're told. You're moving over from the audio pizza feed. Good on you. Hope you're enjoying those outtakes.
We've gone viral.
Either that or it's just a ton of clone Garth subscribing to make me feel better. But whichever one of those things is happening, I'm feeling good about it. So keep it up.
We're a sickness. You should catch us. We're sorry, there is no vaccine.
Oh, dear.
You've been reading so many medical scripts.
I love it.
And one more item of business. On the hashtag Don't Feed the Seagulls campaign, which I think we all agree is going to make the world a better place, Derek sent us in this little segment.
I grew up in the South, which basically means that I grew up around a bunch of rednecks who have instilled in me a very vast appreciation of mindless entertainment. This goes beyond the slinky. We're talking really mindless entertainment. Like being at the beach with seagulls and feeding them warheads because they forget to fly or they crash in the water. Eventually they come back up, but it's kind of amazing. At least it was for me when I was, 8. Have these things, doing their little seagull thing and, you're hanging out. You hold this piece of candy up. They dive bomb your hand. They take the candy, they fly away, and, they just right in the water. Fantastic. Awesome times.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for the Audio Roundtable Session 6. Hope you enjoyed listening. Remember to send us feedback. Feedback. We love feedback. You can send it to feedback@theaudioroundtable.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next month.
Boom.
Satauna, you should do voiceover.
Yeah. Have you thought about making a career of this?
The blastocyst is made up of two primary cell types, which consist of the inner cell's mass, or ICM, which will develop into the fetus, and the trophectoderm cells, which will develop into the placenta. When the blastocyst reaches a stage in which it begins to hatch from its outer shell, a skilled embryologist uses microtools to perform the blastocyst biopsy.
So, Garth, I have to warn you ahead of time. Indy made a bit of noise during that podcast. There's me telling him to shut up a few times. He was snoring a bit and licking his balls at another point. So that's going to be fun. Have fun editing that.